afternoon, everyone, and let's begin with the daily newspaper analysis for today, which is the 14th of February 2023. The articles that we have taken up today are basically from defense and Indian polity. So let's start off with the very first one. The first article is about the case of Office of Profit. Just a second. Yes. So this is the case of Office of Profit of CM Hemant Soren. So for the very first thing, we need to understand what is Office of Profit, and then we can start talking about what is happening over here. Now you have to understand, whenever a person becomes a part of the legislature, whether it is of the union government or that of the state government, we want that person to wholly solely commit to his job and to not really think of making a lot of money in one way or another. The minute you become a part of the state legislature and your party is the largest party of that particular legislative assembly, and considering that you are the leader of that party, you are appointed as the chief minister. Now, as the chief minister, obviously you are getting a lot of benefits in terms of emoluments, right? And those should be ideally enough. And those are enough, in fact, so that the person does not get lured into making more money through other ways. So that is the basic concept of Office of Profit. Now, in our constitution, there are a lot of qualifications and disqualifications that are mentioned for the members of the legislature, or case in point being for the members of the legislative assembly. And amongst those disqualifications, there is one which is called Office of Profit. Now, Office of Profit is mentioned as a ground of disqualification. However, it is not really explained. So, since the definition of Office of Profit has not really been mentioned, we try to analyze from case to case basis what should come under the ambit of Office of Profit and what shouldn't. If I put it very, very simply, it's almost what you read about vicarious liability, the hire plus fire plus direction plus control principle. Now, if the government has hired me and if the government can fire me and the government is directing me what to do and it is also controlling me, then I am I am employed by the government of India. It's as simple as that. Now, if I hold two such positions where the government is paying me, that is the very classic definition of Office of Profit. Now, if you go deep into this, there are many, many cases. For example, there is a case of Jaya Bachchan, or there was also a case of Sonia Gandhi. Now, if you talk about the case of Jaya Bachchan, wherein she was a member of the legislature, but it was alleged that she was holding an Office of Profit. She says, listen, I'm not going to take any other salary. I will just take the salary of being the member of the legislature. The other post that I'm holding, I will do the work, but I'm not going to take the salary for that particular post. It was held in that case that even if you're not deriving any pecuniary benefits from any other post, the fact that you can derive such benefits will also make it an Office of Profit, and thereby you may be disqualified. Now, in the case of Jaya Bachchan, she resigned from the other post, and of course that did not really happen in her case. Now that we've understood a little bit of Office of Profit, let's try and understand what is happening here. So CM Hemant Soren, everyone should know, he's the CM of Jharkhand. And yesterday we spoke about how a lot of governors have been appointed and some of them have been reshuffled. Amongst those governors was Ramesh Bayas, and he has recently been appointed as the governor of Maharashtra. Before this, he was the governor of Jharkhand. As of today, the new governor of Jharkhand is C.P. Radhakrishnan. So what had happened, it was alleged that the chief minister, Hemant Soren, after, getting appointed as the chief minister, he was deriving certain benefits from the government, which comes under the ambit of Office of Profit. So it was alleged that, back in the day when he was the mining and forest minister of Jharkhand, he allegedly allocated a mining lease to himself. And of course, when you are allocating a mining lease, allegedly you're allocating a mining lease to yourself, you will be deriving certain profits out of it. Plus, you're also working for the government, hence you're getting a lot of emoluments, salaries, pensions, benefit, all of that. So hence, this is a classic definition of office of profit. Now, in such a case, what happens and who takes the decision as to disqualification? Now, according to our constitution, this has been mentioned under Article 191 that office of profit is a disqualification. Like I just said, office of profit has been mentioned, but what is office of profit has not really clearly been defined. But, however, there are certain exceptions to this particular case. We will come to the exceptions a little later, but first let's try and understand this. Now, the minute we see that office of profit is a disqualification, now who is going to take the decision to remove this particular person? So, according to Article 192, the question as to disqualification is referred to the governor of that particular state. Now, mostly we see, apart from the provisions wherein the constitution very clearly says that these are the things in which the governor shall use his own constitutional discretionary power. Apart from those provisions, the governor has to listen to the aid and advice of the State Council of Ministers and the Chief Minister. Now, it's very simple. If the governor is trying to remove somebody who is sitting in the Legislative Assembly, and let's say that person is the Chief Minister, and to take such a decision, the governor has to abide by the aid and advice of the Chief Minister. That becomes very counterproductive because that Chief Minister is never going to be disqualified. Who's going to say, oh, please, yes, I've made a mistake, kindly disqualify me? No, that is really not going to happen. So then in this particular case, is the governor going to take the decision all by himself? No, that is not the case, right? So then what does he do? The governor will take the decision as per the Election Commission of India. So the advice of the Election Commission of India in this particular case becomes binding in nature. So simply put, if Hemant Soren has to be removed, and let's say that he has done, this is an office of profit, the governor has to go and ask the Election Commission of India, and whatever the Election Commission of India says, the governor has to follow it. Now, what is the catch in this? The catch in this is that the discussion, the communication between governor and the Election Commission of India is a privileged communication, meaning thereby whatever the ECI says, whether they say, no, this is not office of profit or it is office of profit, this is a very privileged conversation. This is not available in public domain. This is told to directly, it is directly communicated to the governor. Now, what is the second loophole? The second loophole is that in our constitution, it is not really mentioned how long does the governor have to take to tell everyone this decision. So in all probability, what can happen is that by January 25th, the Election Commission of India has already told the governor of Jharkhand that this is our decision, whether that is in or against in favor of the CM or against the CM, we have no idea because it's a privileged conversation. But the fact is that the governor does not really need to say anything about it, okay? And that is exactly what happened in this particular case. In fact, the opinion of ECI has not been made public for 5 months now. Fine, so that is what is in the news right now. Now that Ramesh Bayas has been appointed as the governor of Maharashtra and Jharkhand has a new governor, C.P. Radhakrishnan. Now, it totally depends upon C.P. Radhakrishnan whether he wants to tell everyone about the opinion of ECI or not, right? Apart from that, you can also keep in mind there is another legislation called the Representation of Peoples Act 1951, which again talks about certain qualifications and disqualifications of the members of the legislature, wherein it has been clearly said that in case there is any contract between a member of the legislature and the government, wherein the member of the legislature is getting any pecuniary benefits, then that also is considered to be a ground of disqualification, right? So the person shall be disqualified if there subsists a contract of profit between the person and the government. Also, we've already spoken about it that the communication between the ECI and the governor is a privileged communication. Now, while we were discussing this entire thing, I told you that there are certain exceptions to the case of office of profit. I'm not going to get down to each and every sort of exception, but let's talk about just one. Okay, firstly, who has decided? Where is this list given? This is a law made by the Parliament which talks about prevention of disqualification of the members of the legislature, wherein there is only one thing that I'd like to mention, and that is the post of a minister, Now, everybody understands that in order to become a minister, now, since we are talking about the state, let's just discuss state polity. So, in case a person needs to become a minister, he has to be a member of Legislative Assembly or Vidhan Sabha, or in case such a state also has a Vidhan Parishad or Legislative Council, the person can also become a member of Vidhan Parishad. So basically what I'm trying to say is, in order for a person to become a minister, that person has to be a member of either house of the legislature. Fine. And in case he isn't a member of either house of the legislature, he or she is given a time duration of 6 months within which they have to become a member. If they don't, then they can't remain a minister. All right. Now, in this particular case, if I am a minister, that means I'm working for the executive. And the constitution says that in order to become a minister, I also have to be a part of the legislature. So you can see there are two posts over here. Obviously, as the executive, you will be getting certain extra allocations, certain extra allowances. So you're getting money because you're a part of the legislature, and you're also getting money because you're a part of the executive, right? This is exactly what office of profit is. But because this is a very core element of parliamentary democracy, this then becomes an exception, and we will not disqualify a person because this is a mandatory condition in order to become a minister. All right. So all we need to understand over here is that there are many disqualifications. We are not going to get into that. We will do that in the classes, right? But one of them is office of profit. The person who takes the decision as to disqualification shall be the governor, since we are talking about state polity, right? And the governor, in order to take this decision, has to abide by the binding advice of the Election Commission of India. The communication between the Election Commission of India and that of the governor is a privileged communication. It is not available in public domain, and it is upon the governor to make it public. How long does the governor take to make it public has not really been mentioned. Hence, it has been termed as a loophole. Apart from that, yes, you need to know the names: Hemant Soren, Ramesh Bais, and you should also know that now he's the governor of Maharashtra. Bhagat Singh Koshyari is no longer the governor of Maharashtra, and C.P. Radhakrishnan is the new governor of Jharkhand. Okay, so I think we've understood this and we can go ahead. So the next one is related to defense. China has planned to expand border rail via Aksai Chin. Okay, now, so we've been reading about the Belt Road Initiative. We've also spoken about the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. And now we're reading about this thing that China has this intention to make this railway line. Okay. And it is trying to accelerate this entire project. And when it is making this railway line, it is going to come, or it is going to pass through this contentious, this disputed area called Aksai Chin. Now, for those who are not aware of what is Aksai Chin, it is very much a part of India. Of course, I mean, this is a map that was taken before 2019, before the state of Jammu and Kashmir got converted into the UT of Jammu and Kashmir and UT of Ladakh. And so hence Ladakh has not really been made over here, right? But you can see that there are certain areas in the north of India, some of which have been occupied illegally by Pakistan and some have been occupied illegally by China. And that was because of the 1962 war, the Indo-China war, where this illegal occupancy has taken place. What are we doing about it? I will just talk about that. But as of now, what China is trying to do is it's trying to accelerate this entire border railway line that it's trying to make. In case we don't do anything for this and we sit back and we stay silent, what is going to happen is, theoretically, China will be able to deploy its soldiers at a very rapid pace all throughout our border, and it will become a little difficult for us to keep them out, keeping in mind that, on and off, there are a lot of clashes between the Chinese soldiers and the Indian soldiers. And of course, India is not going to keep quiet. It is also going to do something in return. And we will talk about that. But first, let's look at the intention of China and let's see what they are trying to do. So China has decided to accelerate its railway network to 4,000 kilometers by 2025. Okay. Let's understand this a little and let's try to learn certain provinces that become very, very important. So all of you are aware that, China and India, we are neighbors, and there are certain states which are directly we are sharing our border with China. There are certain regions like Tawang where on and off, there are a lot of disputes because Chinese believe that is a part of their territory, whereas obviously it is not. It is very much a part of India. So firstly, what does the Indian defense or what does the Indian government believe when China is saying all of this? So according to the Indian government, this is like a psychological operation. A psychological operation is nothing. It is just in a way wherein one country is trying to do psychological warfare with another country. उसको डराने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि देखो हम लोग ऐसा कर सकते हैं आपके साथ, right? Secondly, certain things, certain facts that we have to keep in mind, right? So this is the Shigatse Pakutso section of the proposed Xianqing Tibet Railway. So which section are we talking about when we talk about the Aksai Chin area? This is the Shigatse Pakutso section of the proposed Xinjiang Tibet Railway, which runs through the Aksai Chin and which they believe or they have announced that they are going to complete by 2025. Now, the proposed railway will begin in the Shigatse in Tibet, and Tibet is under Chinese administration, and it is going to run northwest through the Nepal boundary, right, and Nepal border, before cutting north through the Aksai Chin area, and it will end up in Hotan in Xianqing. Okay, so all of these regions become important. The Shigatse Pakutso section is important, right? The Xinjiang Tibet Railway is important. This year is important, 2025. Apart from that, where does it begin from? It begins from Shigatse in Tibet, and it will run northwest along the Nepal border before cutting into the Aksai Chin. The plan is to ultimately connect 55 countries and districts as per their 14th five-year plan. So we also used to follow a five-year plan, and it was inspired from the Soviet Union. They still carry on with the five-year plans. They are communist at the end of the day, 2021 to 2025. Now, apart from that, there are only 3 rail lines which are currently operating in Tibet. Which are those? This is the Kingyat Tibet link, right, which is also considered to be the highest railway line, and we'll just talk about what India is doing, right, which opened in 2006. The Lhasa Shigatse rail started in 2014, and the Lhasa Nyongchi line, which started operations in 2021. So these are the 3 railway lines which are currently in operation, and the Lhasa Nyongchi line runs southeast of Tibet near the border with India's Arunachal Pradesh. So you can see Arunachal Pradesh over here. So if in case, they are able to make this railway line which cuts in through the Aksai Chin, like I just said, it will become a little difficult for us until or unless we also do something so as to be able to, keep our troops over there and stop China from attacking in case they actually want to follow through. In case of a psychological warfare, even then we need to take certain very hard decisions. And yes, we are in fact doing the same. Let's try and see what is India doing about this. So the next thing is, in response, India too has expedited its efforts in constructions of strategic railway lines near the China border. I mean, you're going to do the same. We will also do it. You will go and take a Hambantota port on lease. We will also take the Hambantota airport on lease, despite the fact that it is the world's emptiest airport. Why? Because if you're going to spy on us, we will spy on you. We don't care whether it is a psychological warfare or not. But the fact is that we need to take our steps, and we have to learn from the errors of the past. In a very similar manner, we are also going to make these strategic railway lines where, in case, God forbid, if we have to, ask our troops to go and defend us, we'll be able to do that rather well, right? So India's railway footprint in the border area will be defined by 4 proposed lines, 3 in the northeast and 1 in the north. And these lines will add up to about 1352 kilometers. So what are these lines called? These are called strategic railway lines. You should ideally go and read the newspaper, and then you'll be able to read it. You should ideally know which are these railway lines, which areas are they connecting in the northeast, and which one are they talking about in the north. So the process of acquisition of land has already begun for this, right, for the Bhanupali, Bilaspur, Manali, Leh line in Punjab, Himachal and Ladakh. So which are the 2 states and 1 UT through which this line will go? Punjab, Himachal Pradesh and Ladakh. The northern and the western command of the Indian Army will be spearheading this, right? The project estimated to cost 83,360 crore, and it will be opened up in phases. Fine. This strategic line, when complete, will be the highest railway line in the world, overtaking China's Qinghai Tibet line. So Qinghai Tibet line. So now the point is, of course, I hope that it is made soon and it does become the world's highest, but it is not the world's highest yet because it hasn't been made yet, right? So we need to know which is the world's highest railway line, and let's see when we are able to make ours, right? But that will happen super soon. So this is what is happening in terms of our defense. Okay. Let's go ahead. This is the last one for the day. This is a certain term that we have been reading in the newspapers, and just so that you are able to understand the context, the Bimaru states. Now, firstly, Bimaru states include Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh. So, right? So, this is... Okay, so that is why this thing has been coined. Who has coined this particular acronym? It was coined by Ashish Bose, who was the demographer, in a paper presented to the then PM Rajiv Gandhi. Now you have to understand, Bimaru or sickly states does not mean that, okay, it was basically what was the context behind this entire term. The context was that at that time they were talking about family planning, and this particular person, Ashish Bose, he was a demographer. He basically said that, there is very poor family planning in these areas, because of which they will not be able to control their population, and because of which they will not be able to, utilize a lot of resources. Despite the fact that there are a lot of resources, there will be a lot of widespread poverty in such areas because of the fact that there is no family planning and there is no population control. Now, our Honorable Prime Minister, he has gone to the state of Rajasthan, and at that time also he utilized this term. And right now, very recently in the Global Investors Summit, when he was addressing, when he was talking about the state of Uttar Pradesh, he utilized this term, and he said how this term should no longer be in use because these states are doing really well. Of course, at that time in 1985, when Ashish Bose had coined this term, there was no Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand and Uttarakhand. But we all know that, Uttarakhand was carved out of Uttar Pradesh, right? And Chhattisgarh was carved out of Madhya Pradesh, and Jharkhand was carved out of Bihar. And all these 3 states were made in the year 2000. So I guess we've understood that this was only from the point of view of family planning and population control. That is all from my side for today. Kindly read this again and again, make your notes and study hard. I'll see you soon. Thank you very much.